G'day, freedom lovers. We're back for a special Tuesday night. What's special tonight? Today, we've got Alan Sheret for Division 3 as running as an independent. So, without further ado, I think we just bring mate into the stage. G'day, Alan. How are you?
How you going, Mark?
Not too bad, mate, for a Tuesday night. Just knocked off and straight back into a second job, so to speak.
Yeah,
So,
no rest for the wicked.
That's it, mate. That's it. I imagine you must be pretty busy yourself getting ready for the election.
Yeah, mate, it's been pretty full on. Had a few issues, as you know, with regard to the division and the council. So on top of them, I'm pretty happy that that the people are getting a little bit of representation slowly. So yeah.
So who are you up against in this current election and as a council level 3,
I'm up
Division
against
3?
I'm up against Jake Farrell, Labor Party, Change Party, and Anne-Marie Greenie, which is the Jenny Hill Party, which is the Labor Party.
3-horse race, and you're pretty much up against Labor and Labor, and it's pretty confident that they're going to be backing each other with the preferences. So you've got a bit of a fight up against. So a bit of a uphill battle for you there, mate. But fundamentally, you only really need to get 34% of the vote. If 34% of the people vote one Alan, the race is yours. Correct?
I think so, mate. The preferential problem will be there. You know, Labor preferencing Labor, but I hope the voters see through that ploy and see, you know, if they want change and they want a bit of transparency and accountability, they need an independent there, not a party man.
So will 34% be enough, or do you need? What point are you safe?
Oh, well, obviously 51% would be lovely, mate, or more. I'd be quite happy with 55, 60%. You know, a lot of people tell me that they've had a gutful of the regime and the way they're treated or the way they've been ignored or taken for granted, the way things haven't panned out like the council's promised. So, yeah, I think it's time for change.
So what was your key motivating factor for going, hey, I'm going to stand up against Labor versus Labor?
I guess fundamentally being Australian, you know, we don't like bullies, and I think the council is nothing but a big bully. You know, they wield a big legal stick. You know, if you get in their way, they just hammer you to pieces with their legal team, or, you know, they just treat you like, you know, you're just a number, not a person anymore. So that's basically what motivated me, and my personal experience with the council led me to think that, you know, I could do a lot better than what they're doing.
So you mentioned your personal experience there. What has your personal experience been?
Well, mate, in 2009, I guess I was quite a buoyant fan of Jenny Hill those days. And she come around to my place and said, you know, Alan, I want to know the answer to two questions. Will you answer them truthfully and honestly for me? I said, yes, Jenny. I said, if you're prepared to hear the truth, you can come around. So she come around to my residence. My firstborn son was probably he wasn't born yet, so that's how I know the timeline quite well. And she said, you know what, I want to know about this foreign company that's working in Townsville Council. I want to know why we're not employing local contractors. And I also want to know, you know, how are the council budgets always within budgets? I understand that they blow their budgets out all the time, but they seem to be running their budgets all the time, you know. I want to know those questions. I said, yeah, righto. If you want to know, I'll come around and I'll tell you. So she came around and I said, you know, are you prepared to hear the truth? She said, yep. So I said, righto. I said, it's a company from New South Wales. She said, how can that be? I said, well, I don't know. I said, it's against the law for a company to be here more than 3 months without changing their registration to Queensland. It's as simple as that. And the council have employed this one particular company for about 7 or 8 years. So on and off. So I don't know, how the company, the council, are compliant with the law when they allow this sort of thing to happen.
What was the company being employed for?
Road construction and maintenance. So this was a company from New South Wales, head office in Sydney, and they would come up periodically, either through the preferred tender system or the LGAQ, which is the Local Government Association, which I understand Jenny's on the board of that. So that's another procurement arm where the council can go to and seek contractors from that discipline. And if a local contractor isn't on that list, then you don't get the job. It's as simple as that.
So this New South Wales company that's, working on repairing the roads, and I can say I've found quite a few potholes on the roads lately. Yep. So their skills are somewhat questionable. But was this company employed prior to Jenny Hill's reign, or?
Yeah. So before she became mayor, they were employed by the council, and during her reign, they were employed more often.
So you pointed this out to her, and she's done nothing to rectify the situation.
Yeah, well, I sat down with the Director for Infrastructure for the Townsville City Council, Danny Lynch, and Tony Bly, the head of legal for the council, and said, these are my concerns. I had a report compiled. It cost me about $6,500. I thought, I'd present a professional report to them. And so, these are the issues. It's a compliance issue. It's also a legal issue. You're not doing the right thing. And they basically did nothing about it.
Right. That is somewhat disturbing, because you think a local council would be a little bit more interested in supporting locals.
Yeah, well, the short of it was that the council basically said, Alan, it's easier to get rid of you than make the system compliant. So that was the end of my work in the council.
What were you doing, for work at the time? Were you physically working for them, or is this just something you'd done in your part time?
Yeah, so I was under the preferred tender system. I was employed on a daily basis for the council, milling out failures in the road and providing trucks and all that sort of stuff for the civil side of fixing the road. So we could do up to 8 or 9 jobs a day for the council. I employed 13 people, and when they said enough's enough, that was it. I had to sack 10 blokes on the spot, which didn't make me feel all warm and fuzzy.
I can imagine. How long ago was this?
2017 this happened.
Right, yeah. Did you think about running back in the 2020 election as a result, or?
I did run in the COVID elections, but we weren't allowed to talk. We weren't allowed to do anything, so it was a bit of a non-event.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how you weren't allowed to talk and you weren't allowed to do anything?
Oh, they basically said, due to COVID compliance and restrictions, there won't be any debating as such. Mirror meetings were heavily restricted, or if not terminated, because of all the social distancing and all that sort of stuff. You weren't allowed to go near the electoral areas and hand out your how to vote cards. It got that bad that you're allowed to put your how to vote cards on the table. If people picked them up, they picked them up. If they didn't, they didn't. It was quite shocking, to be honest.
And you couple that with something, say, like mail-in voting. How much confidence do you have in a system like that?
Well, I mean, you've got a system that seems to be getting rorted all the time. During the 2020 election, you had Jenny Hill flood 4,500 homes, and apparently she had more of a vote. I mean, if she flooded my home, I wouldn't vote for them. That's for sure.
Mate, I remember being down because I was working with the mainstream at the time. I was down at the emergency centre, and she took the time to sort of ask, me and a couple of the other people, how are you looking? What area are you in? And I said what area I was in, which I'm not going to openly state, but it was a critical area, and she basically looked us in the eye and said, "Oh, it's okay. You guys are in a good area." And yeah, next thing I know, I'm living on an island. I was lucky, but a lot of the neighbours weren't.
Yeah. See, the problem with the flooding, you lose all your electrical, all your personal possessions. The house is basically ruined, and there's been no critical process to say, how, if this happens again, how can we rectify it? The dams, Appleton's Weir and all that sort of stuff are still in place. There hasn't been any engineering done. I understand a year after the floods, the council spent no money on flood mitigation. It just seems like, a rock show, it's just out of control.
Well, the biggest question I have was two. One, why council wouldn't allow me to interview anyone regarding what was going on? Because I did attempt to do a documentary, and I was pretty much shut down at every avenue. The only politician that was willing to actually got back to me was Clive Palmer. And once he just realised, it's not mainstream, I'm not interested, was basically what I got. In just trying to get somebody to talk about it. But yeah, like nobody talked. But I found the secondary question is, why did they allow it to get, I think, I may be incorrect, but it was about 280% capacity when they finally let it go.
I heard at least 240%, but a person said, from the council, it's safe. But, if you blow your car tire up to 240% of what the regulation pressure is, you want to see what happens.
Yeah, it goes bang.
Yeah.
But why aren't we allowing the water out once it reaches 100%? That's maximum load capacity. So why wasn't it being drip fed out at that point? Why was it allowed to get to such a height before they let it go? That's what
I think these positions are filled by people that have no idea. They just want these positions. They want this. I'm chairman of the dam committee. I'm running the show, but I don't know how it works. It just seems like nepotism on steroids sometimes.
Very concerning stuff, mate. Very concerning. Now, aside from what happened all the way back then, so how did you go in that election? With all those restrictions and all that, did you get much of a vote at all?
Oh, I got a little bit of the vote. I was a bit disheartened that I didn't win, obviously, but a mate said, given the situation and all the factors and the uphill battle you faced, you should be proud of what you've done and what you've achieved, and if you fair income, run again. So here I am the second time, 2024, giving it a shot, engaging the council and engaging Anne-Marie and getting some runs on the board. So that's pretty positive.
So I noticed you got your help save the long-term residents of Amaroo from council eviction.
Yes.
As you seems to be one of your main talking points.
Yes.
Do you want to jump into the video that we've got here, or did you want to introduce it?
Yeah. Oh, well, we can do the video first, so you can set the tone for what's happening for the viewers, and then we can talk about the different factors and how the council's misleading the viewers by the statements that they're making.
All right, let's have a look then. This is from Channel 7 Local News.
Outside Townsville Court, claiming they could be homeless within months if council wins its case to evict them from their units. The residents from Amaroo on Mandalay say council has taken them to court for overstaying at the tourist holiday resort.
It's an island paradise with lush gardens and a pool view. So it's no surprise Bob, Mark and Tony are among more than a dozen buyers and renters who were eager to snap up a unit at Amaroo on Mandalay.
When I first went there for 10 years, that was a wonderful place to live.
But they've since changed their tune.
Now it's just like living in hell.
Residents say a Townsville Council solicitor wrote to them last October saying they were taking them to court because they had never been permitted to live in the units permanently and they now want them out. But residents argue they have a letter from Council from 2009 that gives them permission to live in the property long term.
Previous to this, the council have never bothered me. I've always paid number one rates, so they know I've been there for 15 years. Leave us alone.
In planning court today, the case was adjourned to May.
They've got a deferral till after the council election.
Division 3 Council candidate Alan Sheret is not afraid to make the case an election issue as he runs against the incumbent Anne-Marie Greeny.
Council is not in the business of evicting people from their homes. If Alan or Sheret or someone would like to get on and look at the planning court documents, I think people would be willing to, understand the full situation.
I'm on the street, that's what my plan is, with a tent on my back, looking for a place to live. Maybe just in front here would be ideal.
Bruce Rutama, 7 News.
Well, that's I've got some dodgy camera things going on here. Give me a second. I'm going to reset my camera. Give us a little bit of a rundown on what's going on there. Let's add some more to that.
Yeah, so Anne-Marie basically said that the council's not in the business of evicting people, and that's quite misleading. I got a letter from Stokes lawyers today that are representing some of the respondents that the council's going after, and it states there the council is effectively seeking to evict those residents from the resort who are residing or using their units for permanent or long-term accommodation. So Anne-Marie's comments there, she either doesn't know what the council's up to or she's being a bit creative with the truth. Being on the planning committee herself and Jenny Hill, she should be fully informed and fully all over the issue. Obviously, she doesn't want to tell the truth.
I do find it hard that that statement, they're not in the business of evicting people from their homes. Well, I know damn well that if somebody doesn't pay their rates, they're more than happy to sell that house from underneath you.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely.
And, there was a case in Ayr where a man, an Indigenous elder, was removed from his home, for saying, well, why am I paying rates to you? This is my land. I bought the house. Justify your claim, and in the end they just sold his house out from underneath him for as cheap as they could. Just as long as they covered their costs, it didn't matter. They not only sold his house, but they sold all his possessions as well.
The council,
I think it was about 90,000. And
the council
to top this off, they used native title on an Indigenous elder to remove him from his home. So the idea that council won't sell your home, right.
But I'd like to, Mark, just quickly read from the council's own documents here. Page 6, it says that they're seeking enforcement orders for respondents not to permit for permanent or long-term accommodation. That's page 6 from the council document. So Anne-Marie doesn't even know what documents are before the court. She's publicly said, Alan needs to read the documents. I read the documents, and that's what it says. So I fail to see how she's got any sort of standing now.
The residents claim they had a 2009 letter saying that they had the ability, the right to be residents there. That's
that one there, Mark.
All right. So can you give us a brief rundown or a quick read?
So this letter is from July 2009. The Planning and Economic Development unit of the Townsville City Council. So it's a city council document. And it says, in reply, I wish to advise that the long-term letting of accommodation rooms is permissible use under the relevant Planning Act. So that's the letter that one of the letters stating that the council's position is that you could say they're long term. Come 2023, they've changed their position for whatever reason, and now they're wanting to evict the people.
So tell me about these apartments. Is it something that they've purchased or something that they're renting? What? Because I somewhere in there they mentioned something about paying rates. So that to me suggests ownership.
Yeah, so these units were strata titled approximately 20 years ago. So they've got freehold title there. So they can do whatever they like, really, because it's a freehold title within reason. And they've been living there for 18 to 20 years, some of the residents. And quite happily, they, as Tony said on that interview, he's pays the number one rates, which is residential rates for his dwelling. He's been doing that for 18 years, I understand, and the council are fully aware that he's a permanent resident there, and he has been for 18 years.
Explain freehold title for those who don't know.
So freehold title is unlike leasehold or anything like that, where you actually have title over your property, and as such you pay rates. That's for the amenities that the council provide or supposed to supply to you. So that gives you a bit of peace of mind. It also allows you to buy and sell, get a loan, upgrade your property, and all other things like that. It's just basically a home, if I could put it like that.
So anybody who's gone out and either purchased the home or got a loan and mortgaged the home, that kind of scenario is freehold title, yeah?
Yeah, that's correct. So the problem with this process is, they can basically go to any freehold owner now and say, hey, for whatever reason, we want your home. If you don't want to give it to us in 3 months' time, we'll make you pay legal fees like what's instituted by the Townsville City Council if you lose, and we'll give you hell anyway. I understand the council's got a solicitor and a barrister involved, and they're hammering these vulnerable residents quite severely.
And if I understand correctly, they're mostly elderly residents, yeah?
Yeah, they're elderly, vulnerable residents. They've worked there, 20 or 30 years or whatever. They're now retired. Some have been retired for quite a long time. They like the lifestyle of the island. They like, the lack of stress and stuff like that. And suddenly they're dragged into the court and their homes are being reefed out from underneath them, and they could be evicted.
Really do have to wonder about the moral integrity of somebody who can, jump on the news there and just claim that, oh, we're not in the business of evicting people when they clearly are. That's just wrong. Absolutely wrong.
Well, when you talk about morality there, the council in their argument say that they've never indicated to the residents that they can stay there full time or on a permanent basis. That 2009 letter clearly states that they're allowed to. So the left hand isn't talking to the right hand of the council once again, and it's costing the ratepayers tens of thousands of dollars to have this played out in court.
Yeah, it's a lose-lose for everybody because obviously it's our ratepayer money that they're using to pay solicitors and barristers and court fees. Whether they win or lose, we're paying for this.
Absolutely, and in Monday's paper, Jenny Hill said that she wanted to diversify the council interests and give the ratepayer more value for money. Well, I looked at that.
That's got like that.
Oh. I think, well, if you want to save the ratepayer some money, why are you suing the arse out of these vulnerable residents? And the other thing is, are they investing in these units, after they have to sell them out from underneath these people? Is this going to be some sort of, Townsville City Council holiday park? You just don't know.
Or is there a big developer who's got their eye on it and Jenny's like, yeah, no worries, leave it to me. We'll get them oldies out the road for you.
Well, that's exactly right. And the other point I want to
and of course, these are hypotheticals.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, mate. Like we don't know. It smells fishy, and it's probably it'll play out later on. But one point I'd like to make is this is all over one complainant. One person has complained about this, and the council's gone to the nth degree with the Lansdowne.
So, what's this complaint?
Well, it's a complaint that the people that are living there full time are affecting the people that want to rent their units out to tourists.
So, as freehold land, people are obviously entitled to treat it as they wish, and would it be that some people there are sort of treating it as a bit as an investment where some people actually want to live there, and I'm guessing this is an apartment block sort of scenario.
Yeah, it is. I mean, at the end of the day, if you've got freehold title and you want to stay there full time, and the council have obviously agreed with that, that's your right to exercise that. The fact that one person has complained, why wouldn't you just get that person around the table with the rest of them and say, what is really the nature of this complaint, and can we resolve it without spending hundreds of thousands of dollars of ratepayers' money?
Is there a body corporate involved here?
There is a body corporate, but they seem to be doing nothing. So the residents
just collecting their fees.
Yeah, absolutely. But the residents themselves have got out and employed Stokes lawyers in Brisbane, and they're doing a good job. And they helped me out today with regard to giving me the latest advice with regard to response to Anne Marie's nonsense comments.
So the viewers are aware, we were going to go over on Sunday and have a chat to the residents. So we had a little bit more to sort of bring to the table in today's interview. But obviously the weather was a little bit restrictive. So stay tuned. We will get around there and bring you more on this story. Just in the interest of keeping things moving, though, I think we've hammered that point home pretty well.
Yep.
Obviously, I might just bring up so people have a bit of an awareness, because one thing, getting around town and talking to people, I've come to the realization that a lot of people don't really understand local council very much. So this is Division 3, which you're running for. And within Division 3, we've got South Townsville, which also contains the port. So there's a lot of money there. We've got the Townsville City, where the council buildings are themselves. And obviously there's a lot of money in, the real estate there. North Ward, Castle Hill, and there's some serious money in there, and Belgian Gardens as well. Rose Bay, moving up through to Pallaranda here, which is, where all your sports stars and some more very wealthy people are residing. And Garbett, which is, probably not the most, desirable place to live in Townsville.
It's a working class suburb,
and it's got the airport, again, more big bucks in here. Mount St. John, which is your industrial estate here. I believe, I can't remember his name, Mr. Webb there is pretty much owns a very large chunk of land there, which he kind of oversees from his little mountain view up here. And Bowley, again, more industry. So there's a lot of money in this area, a lot of big players, as well as Magnetic Island itself, which again, is, it's a nice touristy sort of a place, and, a lot of people go to live there for a nice sort of peaceful island style life. I'm not sure on, the cost there, but I imagine everything costs a little bit more on the island, just because it's just so hard to get things over there via the ferry and whatnot. So how do you appeal to such a market like this, where you're going to be dealing with a lot of big money players here, man? What's your strategy?
So just transparency and accountability. If you can balance the books in the council, you're not going to jack the fees up as much. The people in Belgian Gardens and stuff like that, they could be paying, upwards of $5,000 a half year for rates. So, if they go up, that those people are hurting, and if they're retired, that's coming out of their savings. They're not really getting $5,000 or $10,000 worth of services from the council, so they're a bit bewildered. Where is all this money going? And the debt from the council just seems to be climbing. They have no idea of any sort of monetary responsibility. They seem to be spending all this money on these ridiculous things, and there's no real basic services anymore. The roads and rubbish. The roads are going to pot. When you go to the dump, outside of what is normal, they charge you like a wounded bull, and the services just aren't there anymore. The roadside and all that sort of stuff isn't being maintained the way it was. The whole joint just looks a bit secondhand, and people go, excuse me, that if we're paying this good money, we would like to see some services. So basically, a bit of accountability and transparency. Where the hell is all the money going?
I don't know what your rates are looking like, mate, but in the 6 years I've been a homeowner here, it's gone from the vicinity of 3,000 to the vicinity of 4,000. That is a massive jump, a massive chunk of change.
You can't justify that.
No, I certainly haven't seen the services increase, to that extent. No. If anything, for pretty much the whole time Susie's been running this town, and sadly, she's pretty much automatically been re-elected because nobody stood against her. So I guess another 4 years of not having parks, replaced after the criminals come and burn them down. Another 4 years of, the busted, cracked guttering that's been outside my house for as long as I can, pretty much since I've been there, really. So some more of this low maintenance. We had a class 1 cyclone come through, which is basically a large gust of wind, and just about everybody in Townsville lost power. I would have thought, maybe some tree trimming so that power lines don't come down, a little bit of investigation into, are these trees, fit to stand through something like that even? No, they just seem to wait to see what's going to happen, and we'll clean up the mess afterwards, and to hell with the chaos it causes.
Yeah, well, the whole problem with the council, if you've got any idea, Jenny Hill seems to sidestep you and get someone in that's really compliant that just nods and says yes. So when you've got people that don't know what they're doing, you get this sort of effect. There's very little service. There's very little precautions taken. Like in the Yassi event, I was one of 4,500 people that said, "Oh, your home's now under effect of flooding in 180 km/h winds. You need to leave and go out and play in the streets with the live power lines that are just about to fall down." Mate, this is just ridiculous.
So, what kind of solutions do you think you'll have, for these sorts of scenarios moving forward?
Well, obviously there's a two-pronged attack there. You've got the council workforce, and you've got the private workforce. They need to be teamed up together to get the best result. If the council workforce aren't getting any overtime and they're just being downplayed or being treated like second-class citizens, they're going to be a bit annoyed with the council and not going to work hard. I mean, it's hard to live on $600 a week. At the end of the day, the private blokes, I mean, if they're employed by the council, and I understand this has come into the last term, that if for whatever reason the job doesn't go ahead, the private contractor, he gets half an hour or an hour pay, and then the person who's employed that contractor, he still has to be compliant with the worker legislation and give them 4 hours. It just seems that you've got one rule for one people and one rule for the other, and the council don't treat their workforce as an asset. They just treat them like cattle, and they just move them on. And I think that's the wrong way. They need to invest in training and stuff like that, and say, well, if you're good, you can go up the tree and you'll get a reward, not be hammered and treated appallingly.
Got a question here from the audience. Mark James here. G'day, Mark. Has asked, his question is, will you be reinstating the term of tree doctors that Townsville had in place under Tony Mooney, that Les Tyrrell sacked when he won the merger of Townsville and Thuringowa?
Well, I'm not a big Tony Mooney fan, as you know, but I do think some of the things he did were beneficial to the city. The tree doctor and that sort of preventative thing with the trees. I mean, if they get a bit of a haircut every now and then, and that keeps them standing and stops them from falling on cars, buildings, people, etc., that's a good thing, and especially if they're a local business. That and I say local when they're owned and operated by someone in Townsville, that's a good thing, This let's just wait and see, and if it falls over and causes tens of thousands of dollars of damage, we'll just get it out of the federal government or whatever. That's not the right way to look at things.
Oh, definitely. I had a large tree here that needed to be removed. It was a massive rain tree basically going right over the top of my house, clogging gutterings, putting crap all over the street. Bits of wood falling off and hit me in the head one day while I was mowing my lawn. That was the final straw. And the amount of red tape bullshit we had to go through to have that removed, to the extent of, there might be somebody who lives down the street who really likes the look of that tree. Oh, well, good on them. They can stand under it mowing my lawn because it's falling on me bloody head.
Well, the rain tree, the problem is with the dead limbs, as you know, as soon as it rains, they fill up and they fall off, and that could have quite easily killed you. But again, if you've got a good workforce in the council, that would be the first port of call. They would come out and they'd assess the tree and say, right, mate, it is dangerous. We can either do it in-house or we'll get private contractors that do a good job that are preferred by the council. And that's the way, the right way it should happen,
Mark's also made this interesting point here. The council is a body corporate, and as a fan of shows like the Know Your Rights, which is currently running at the moment up against us, has pointed out on several occasions is that is the fundamental purpose of local council, is to operate as a body corporate and maintain everything and make sure we have all the services and facilities we need. Yet they're operating as a third tier of government, which some say is against the Constitution, because it's not constitutionally recognized a third tier of government. And when asked via referendum, the people had a big resounding no, we don't want a third tier of government. They went and created the Local Government Act anyway. Blatant disregard for the people's wishes, what we've come to see from government time and time again. Would you be interested in perhaps running council more the way it was meant to be, as opposed to the way it's currently being run?
Well, the council's there to serve the people, and that's its primary job. When you go to the council chamber now, it's incorporated. It's a business unit. So is it looking for profit or is it looking to help the people? I'm all for balancing the books and not wasting money. But at the end of the day, we've got to have a council that serves the people first. I mean, like I said in Monday's paper, that Jenny Hill wants to diversify the council interests. I mean, she's got core values there. They can't do them. And what does she want to go into tourism, or what does she want to go into hydrogen? I mean, does she want to invest in space? I mean, the sky's the limit with these people.
They do seem to be throwing money left, right, and center, as I understand it. Jenny Hill's throwing a lot of money to various places that she just happens to be on the board of as well.
Yeah, well, I heard that she gave Townsville Enterprise $1.6 million that she's a party to. So how do you give from your left hand and give it to your right hand? I mean, I think that is a conflict of interest myself, but that's for the voters to decide.
Definitely. Christian Price here. What's your policy and platforms?
So the platforms are, I've spoken to the people, and the number one concern is crime. The number two concern is the rates, how they are increasing all the time. So I understand that the state government institute the laws and stuff for the states, but if you're a local government, you should advocate for the people and say, enough's enough. This is out of control. But if Team Jenny Hill want to climb the corporate ladder like Les Walker did, they're not going to rock the boat. They're not going to care. I mean, they spent $22 or $23 million on putting rocks around that park, which is horrible and a danger. This is only 30 or 40 kids that are running amok here. They've got a police helicopter running 24/7. I mean, this is costing an absolute fortune. They need to institute a bit of education and accountability here.
Well, some decent punishment might go, help bring the crime down too. That's one of the things. There's a constant slap in the wrist, and that's obviously something that's outside the field of local council. But during one of the last crime rallies, Jenny Hill's solution was more cameras, and unfortunately, that's going to have to come out of your rates for more people to monitor these things. Or I don't recall asking for it. I didn't want more of a Big Brother scenario for these kids to just go and dance in front of these cameras willy-nilly when the courts are going to let them out the next day anyway. The cameras are utterly pointless. What's the point of capturing them on film, and nothing is done anyway? It's utterly pointless,
Well, I think it's just an excuse. I just think it's an excuse to run this 15-minute city agenda and get all the cameras. I mean, no kid that's stealing a car that's 13 years old gives a rat's about any sort of camera or 30 cameras or anything like that. So, what is the real purpose for these cameras? It's certainly not to stop these kids. It certainly hasn't helped. So, she spent $200,000 or $300,000 doing this. So, what is the real agenda with these cameras? It's certainly not to fix crime.
Well, we see what the cameras do in China. We've seen how they're used to mitigate the general public, and to hold them to all the ridiculous laws that are set up. And as Mark here's pointed out, the money is going to create 15-minute cities. All you have to do is look at the fences that are going up along Nathan Street again, when they're trying to herd people into the designated places where you're allowed to cross here, you're allowed to walk there. It's more of a dictatorship than it is, a service to the people.
Yeah. So those viewers that don't understand the concept of a 15-minute city, that's basically an area that residents can go to within a small pocket, and if they go outside, they're either heavily financially penalised or they're incarcerated. So this isn't the Australian way. I mean, we fought 2 world wars and subsequent issues along the way to give us our freedoms and rights that we enjoy today. It just seems by stealth that Jenny Hill's taking these all away from us.
So Janine's got, you cannot make a department third tier of government. Section 107 states they can create local government as part of the state and they may regulate it, but laws must come under the laws Commonwealth Constitution. So yeah, again, you got to wonder at what point did things get to a state where local council are, handing out fines, and at what point did they become a police force as well? Particularly when it comes to situations, in my opinion, such as parking, where the council's supposed to provide and make sure that there is enough parking as part of town planning. So how did they plan so poorly that there is no parking to the extent, we've got to mitigate it? And I've heard statements of Jenny Hill, you're just never going to win with parking. Well, not if you don't provide it. And if your solution to inadequate parking is to charge people, and then when they don't pay, the fees and whatnot, is to fine them. And that seems to have worked really well in Townsville City, which is going to be your electorate as well, where it seems to have killed the city because people don't want to pay for parking. I know I won't go there. I'm not going to pay for parking, not when I can get, the same services and in some cases better services with free parking. So
that's exactly right.
Parking?
Well, it should be free parking to get the people in there. I mean, if you're going to compete one-on-one with somewhere with free parking, you've got to provide the same amount of service, if not more. If you're providing less, people won't go into the city. It's as simple as that. And the city's the Townsville City is just dead at the moment. But you've got people with no business acumen whatsoever. You know, they do the opposite. They discourage people, and they go, well, we don't understand why they're not coming in. Well, they're not coming in because you're discouraging them.
Yeah.
Who wants to put up with that rubbish when you can go to a regional shopping centre and not pay for anything, and it's comfortable and they provide decent parking?
So we're looking at Townsville City there. You know, I mean, I looked at a few old maps back in the day. You know, they post them up every now and then. I was trying to think. I think it was one of the community garden events or something to that effect. And you know, I observed that the city had a lot more space for parking. Yet, as the city grows, we have less space for parking, and to the extent where they've opened up places for parking, but they're being run by private corporations. So how do you think we can deal with this sort of situation? Can we reclaim that land and make it free parking? Can we develop more parking somewhere, perhaps?
Well, as you know, the council set the policies for the local government going forward. There should be a minimum standard. You know, we've got cottages, you know, that area are less than 600 square meters. I mean, you know, this is a big country, and why are people paying a premium for less than 600 square meters? This is wrecking the standard of living, and you know, this is just wrong. So you need to have a decent standard for the people with regard to the amenities too. It should be well thought out. I mean, some of the streets in Douglas there, you can't swing a cat. It's just ridiculous. But you know, no one's held accountable, and it's just wrong. So I'd like a bit of transparency and accountability in the council, and say, you know, well, moving forward, we did make these mistakes, but moving forward, we're going to rectify them. We've noted them, we're rectifying them, and we're going forward, and not charge the developer an arm and a leg. I mean, I understand some Labor Party supporters, you know, get a free ride, but a lot of developers aren't Labor supporters, and they get hauled through the coals, you know, and have to pay for all this infrastructure, and sometimes the development isn't viable anymore. One particular incident I know is the Radical Bay development there. The council wanted the developer to spend $3.5 million on their local road to upgrade it. Then they're going to take it back. I mean, if the development's only worth $7 million and you've got to put up 50% on a road that you've got to give back to the council, are you really going to invest in the place? So these are the things that people need to understand. The joint's going backwards because the council's robbing people left, right, and centre.
Most assuredly. So I can't imagine there's going to be a lot of new housing estates popping up in Division 3, really. It looks like a pretty well-settled area. But those new housing estates is definitely something I think of grave concern when we're looking at property sizes of 350 square meters. And, you know, there's only one car park, and you know that the streets are so small, there's no space for people to park in the streets. And as you know, a delivery driver, you know, getting around some of those areas is a nightmare, you know. And as I said to Troy, you know, the first thing you do when you move in, you get your removalist truck. How's the removalist truck going to get in there when you got low hanging trees, tiny streets, everything's cramped and congested because you've built such a little dog box of a scenario? Like it's absolute lunacy. I don't understand where the town planning's going here, where you can have such small properties and such small streets as well.
Well, see, I think the main goal is to cram more people in so they can get more rates. So it's just a greed thing. It's not a humanity thing, you know. So that's the problem with the council. They're looking at dollars and cents and not about livability. And, you know, if you can get 200 homes in where, you know, there should be only 150, well, that's an extra 50 homes that they're going to get rates on, and they'll probably charge them just as much as as the 150 that were there going to be originally. So this is what the council's looking at. And there's, like I said, there's no accountability. So they're going ahead with this rubbish.
What disturbs me about, the allotment for, so one car garage on a property is most people have two cars, in a standard family scenario, most people are coupled in some fashion, so you're going to have at least two cars to get yourself around town. It's not like public transport's really there as a great winner. You have a look down, what's that new one down near Billabong Sanctuary? Its name escapes me at the moment.
Elliott Springs,
one road in.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to? Everybody's going to work at the same, roughly about 9 o'clock. I can't imagine what kind of congestion they're going to deal with when that's finished.
Yeah, it'll end up like Bushland Beach. It'll be an absolute disaster. An hour and a half to get into the city. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
but they'll promise the world and give you nothing.
And it seems like that's sort of geared towards that 15-minute city where they don't want you to leave. They made it so hard for you to get out. And it's like, they want you to work within that residential community. And there's only so much commercial enterprise in there in the first place.
Yeah, well, I understand that at Elliott Springs, they have a shopping centre designed there that's going to start shortly. So, maybe they all want everyone in front of a computer. Maybe it'll end up like Matrix, we'll all be plugged in and we'll all be batteries. I don't know.
That's certainly some scary thoughts. Especially, I'm a fan of the movie, and I could, I don't know. Did you watch the fourth one?
No, I didn't. No.
You've got to watch the fourth one.
The first two were scary enough.
I don't want to ruin the movie for you, but you definitely want to check the fourth one out. And the way it ends is pretty much exactly where we are now, without giving it away. Block your ears if you haven't seen the movie. But, the fundamental concept is, do the people really want to be ruled? And when you look around and you see so few people standing up as independents in this particular election and various other elements, so many people seem to want change, but what they seem to really want to do is sit in a chair and watch someone else change it for them. And you start to wonder, well, how much do people want to be ruled when you're not willing to get up and do something for yourself?
Yeah, well, I'm a hands-on sort of bloke, and I can assess the problem and go forward. I've run my own business for many years. So, you come across many problems there, and the job side and Mother Nature, will lift a hand, and you've got to sort of roll with the punches with that sort of thing, So I think I'm pretty well skilled to handle that. And, if Jenny still gets in and wants to bully me, then whatever, I can handle bullies. That's no problem.
That seemed to have been a bit of a problem for other independent candidates during the last 4 years as well. We had two independents in there who were, for lack of a better term, henpecked constantly.
Yep.
How should the situation arise where you are voted in as an independent, and Jenny Hill does what she's done again, where she henpecks you constantly, knocks you down constantly, puts gag orders on you so that you can't even speak out about what's actually happening. How do you think you're going to handle that?
Well, I'll work out what the parameters are that I can work with. I mean, you don't take a slingshot to a gun battle. I certainly won't be going into any battle that I don't have a good chance of winning. And I'll call her out and say, this is unacceptable. Like the poor people at Amaroo, this is un-Australian. Why is the council, prosecuting and evicting its own ratepayers? And last time I looked, it was a free democratic society, and I'm allowed to speak my mind. So surely, as a councillor, I'm afforded that right.
Well, it doesn't seem to be the case when gag orders are handed out by the mayor to prevent them from speaking out.
Yeah, I'm not sure how these gag orders. Yeah, I'm not sure how these gag orders are able to be put in place. Whether Fran did make a mistake and she did give Jenny some leverage over or whatever. But I'll certainly look into that, and I'll give it my best shot.
So a little bit of your background, you say you've got the business savvy mind, where have you sort of, obviously you touched on that you worked within the council and whatnot. What else have you done?
So I've run in the civil industry, mainly road construction and repair. So, we see it all where some contractors come in and just lay asphalt on top of mud and get their money and cheat through. And, 6 weeks, 6 days or 6 months later, it all fails. And then we've got to come in and do the job properly. It's more cost effective to do the job properly than repair it 8 or 10 times that the council seem to do. I would say to the general public, don't abuse the council workers. They're just doing what they're told. It's middle and upper management that need to be held accountable for the wrong decisions they're making that the workers are just following.
It's kind of, a nationwide joke. It's not something that's just held here within, Townsville, but on many, many places I've been, where, so somebody standing around, lollygagging, having a yarn, whatnot, and somebody go, "Oi, why don't you get back to work?" "Oh, I'm just studying to be a council worker." What are your thoughts on that attitude?
Well, I mean, I speak to council workers all the time, and at the moment, the council's got to go slow on them, and they've got families to feed and stuff like that, and they're, some of them are only taking $600, $700 home a week, and that might seem a lot of money to the older folks that are viewing this, but in this day and age, if you've got a couple of kids paying a mortgage or paying rent, $600 or $700 doesn't go far at all. So are you going to work as hard as a private contractor that's on $1,100 or $1,200 a week as opposed to $600 a week? I mean, why would you work hard, especially if there's no overtime? You feel like you're getting penalised all the time. So the incentive really isn't there. And plus, are they able to climb the corporate ladder? And the answer to that is most of the time, no. So where's the incentive there? It's just that's the problem with council at the moment. You can't climb the ladder. It's all about mates and nepotism at the moment, and that's killing the council. And that's what people are seeing on the ground. Why are all these blokes standing here? Because the middle management couldn't run a job.
So what's your solution to that?
So I would employ people on an evidence-based system. Are you able to run this job? Not because you're related to Jenny Hill or whoever. Can you run this job properly? You show me. Does your history dictate that you can do this job properly? Show me. Put them on a 6-month trial period, and if they're good, put them on permanent. Don't say, "Oh, well, yeah, he's good. He's in the Labor Party. We'll give him a foreman's job, and it all goes to hell."
So you're thinking more subcontracting sort of council work out as opposed to, permanently employed council workers?
I think there definitely needs to be a mix at the moment. Private contractors, if you're going to get, possibly paid 1 hour for an 8-hour day, you're not going to be bothered with the council anymore. You're going to tell them to shove it. So the council can't get private contractors. The council staff themselves have had a gutful. It's a loss for the ratepayer. So with education, with the council workers, a bit of incentive, give them overtime, give them a half decent wage. I'm sure they'll perform. And then have your private contractors there, and have jobs done properly. If a private contractor can do 2 or 3 jobs like we used to, give them an 8-hour day to do those 2-3 jobs, so the council aren't complaining about the same pothole for 6 months. It's done in 6 days rather than 6 months. These are the things that the council need to look at, but they're too busy, looking after their mates and covering the books and making sure everything, looks, half decent and it doesn't look like an absolute sideshow.
So that note of transparency and covering the books, how transparent do you feel you could make it, once you get into that system. A hypothetical scenario, Troy Thompson gets mayor. He's got a little bit more, we've got an independent sort of as mayor, and we get enough independent people into council to sort of have that balance of power, sort of tip in the favor of an independent as opposed to a Labor union sort of control system, which we have in place now. What do you see that sort of future looking like?
Well, I'm sure Troy, being an intelligent person, he would say, Alan, what are the issues and the problems with the past, and I would relay them, and he'd say, what are the possible solutions to them? What are the cost of effective ways to resolve those issues? And I'd just say to him, hey, listen, mate, if you do the job properly once, it's a lot better. You need to give the council inspectors the skill set to realise that, some jobs need to be done differently to others. You need to have a good private workforce there that can work hand in hand with the council. Like the council have a lot of assets there that are underutilised, and like I said, they're not getting any overtime when they really need to be. This is just a scenario that is just a loss all the time for the ratepayer. If you fix all these issues, you can turn things around quite a lot.
As a ratepayer, I must say it was a bit disheartening to see that right before they go on holidays to campaign at our expense, the council have elected to give themselves, 16% pay rise, was it?
Yeah, like they seem to be in a world of their own with regard to this sort of stuff. I mean, if rates are at CPI or less, why are they getting these large increases? I mean, there's a lot of benefits in council. I mean, if they're doing a really good job, you could possibly justify it. But when they've got huge capital debt and people are angry, people are getting robbed. I mean, I know heaps of people that refuse to drive after a carjacking incident for many weeks or months. I mean, there doesn't seem to be any empathy for the victims. The Labor Party just say, the criminals have got rights and we need to look after them by, giving them a slap on the wrist and a new stolen car a day later or a week later. I mean, this isn't acceptable anymore.
Well, especially when you see, our member for Thuringowa there basically calling all the victims of crime rent-a-crowd. It's hard to see, how the Labor Party seem to have any compassion in regards to the crime. That's for sure.
Well, Aaron Harper being a medic, I would have thought he would have been a little bit more attuned to all the accidents and things with regard to these stolen cars. I understand the equation is one adult death a month with regard to these stolen cars that's directly related. Once upon a time, when someone died in this country, it made national news. I mean, now they're dying all the time and no one really cares. I mean, is this a new Labor Party, standard that, people die and no one really cares? I mean, he was an AMBO. I mean, I know AMBOs and they used to be really good. They're very, very caring people. I honestly couldn't do that job myself, but, they've got that mindset and they've got that training and good luck to them. But, the fact that the criminals are now targeting the ambulances and spitting and punching the AMBOs, that's just wrong in my book.
Definitely. So we might encourage some of our viewers there to maybe ask some questions as well. What kind of things do you want to see changed here in Townsville? What kind of a relationship have you got with the other independents at the moment, mate?
Well, I've known Christian Price for many years. I went to school with him. He's got a good handle on his area where he is in Division 4. He understands, like the rest of us, that the council have dropped the ball with regard to the maintenance of the area. It looks quite shocking. With regard to crime, he believes that the people need to be accountable. Troy Thompson's the same. The other independents, I've reached out to them, but, whether they're a bit wary of Jenny Hill's tentacles and, if they get in, they don't want to be seen with me, I don't know. But I have reached out to them and it's a bit disappointing. But at the end of the day, I'll do as best I can with the people that feel the same. I understand Troy Thompson feels for the people at Amaroo. Christian Price, thinks that's disgusting that the council's evicting elderly residents. The others, I don't think, have made a comment or not willing to make a comment or scared to make a comment. I don't know. But, at the end of the day, if I could align myself with people that have the same values as me, then we can move forward,
Definitely. I was trying to think. It's debates. You mentioned something about, that you didn't have an opportunity for debates last time. Do you will there be a debate for the Division 3 councillors? I know Troy's got something going with the mayor, but again, I found it interesting. There's a $150 ticket to go and see the debate, between Troy and Jenny Hill and whoever this third person is that's lobbed up. I haven't had a chance to investigate. I find that, wow, what a slap in the face to the residents where you got to come up with $150 to see these people duke it out. They can't even film. It's been licensed to mainstream media only. Obviously they don't, is anybody going to give a full telecast of what happened, which is what I was hoping we could provide here at the North Queensland Freedom Network, so everybody could see everything that was said, not the choice little pieces that are, less than questionable, or rather questionable mainstream media would provide. Having worked with them, I know they're generally under the pump as far as time goes, and they're not exactly, well funded these days. So whatever job they do, it'll be a rush job. Personally, I'd like to see the whole thing.
Well, again, you've got to take Jenny's transparency and accountability, a bit of tongue in cheek there. I mean, it should be, if it's a mayoral debate, it should be beamed to the whole town without any sort of question. I mean, just because you've got $150, you're better than the rest of us. I mean, that's just wrong. That's not accountability and transparency. It's just words from her mouth, as far as I can see.
Definitely. So is there a debate amongst the councillors?
So I understand that the 2nd of March, we've got a mirror meeting over the island. That's a Magnetic Island residents or ratepayers. I understand that the residents over there will certainly hold Anne-Marie to account for her decisions or her lack of consultation. She's basically said to the residents of Amaroo, it's in the courts, I can't speak about this, Well, before it went to the court, why didn't she speak to the people then, Because surely, exactly. If she opened her mouth, she could have saved the council and the ratepayers hundreds of thousands of dollars. But she chooses to be vacant in a job, and this is the result. You've got to have councillors that are willing to have a go and do the best by the people, not trying to make some sort of meal out of a mess.
So that meeting on the Magnetic Island with the Ratepayers Association, that's all you've really got coming up in regards to some.
Yeah, I understand, mate. Yeah, it's quite sad. I mean, you'd want to debate her, probably 2 or 3 times. I'd like to, keep her accountable, and ask her those questions that normal folk can't. Just look at her straight in the face and say, I need an answer to this. That's not scripted from the Labor Party or the State Labor Party. Give me an answer now, please. And see how she reacts and see how, she's accountable to the people.
Well, you're more than welcome to extend the invite. You can bring her on the show here, and we can have her up against the general populace as well. Everybody can come and have a yarn and throw their 2 bobs in if she's game. I'm happy to host it.
I'll certainly pass it on to her at the mirror meeting when I see her, and say, if you want to debate me on North Queensland Freedom Network, Yeah, I'm all happy to do that.
No, that'd be certainly very interesting to see what happens there. So if anyone's got any questions, now's the time to ask. So how can people get a hold of you if they do have any further questions, particularly those who haven't been able to tune in live?
So I'm going to get a Facebook page going on Friday, so you can blast me with the questions there, or you can come to the Mirror meeting on the 2nd of March there at the RSL at Arcadia on Magnetic Island. I'm all for taking questions that aren't scripted. People need to know who they're going to vote for and whether he can think on his feet or whether he's, someone that's just a muppet from a party.
Yeah. And for those looking I'll make sure I spelt your name right. I'm pretty sure I got it right there.
That's
Alan
it's
Sheret there, Division 3. Type that into Facebook. Are you going to set up maybe a Twitter and a few other little social media accounts as well that people can?
No, just Facebook. I think is enough. Like most of the people in Division 3, a lot of them are elderly. They don't even use Facebook, so I figure Facebook would be a good step with regard to that.
No worries. So yeah, keep an eye out on Facebook for Alan if you want to get in contact with him. Will you have a phone number available or even an email address, perhaps?
Yes. So it's Townsville Division 3 at gmail.com. You can email those questions and all that sort of thing. And if you want to meet face to face over a particular issue, I'm all happy to look at those issues and see what solutions can be found for them.
So again, is that correct? Townsville Division 3 at gmail.com. Yep,
that's it. Thank you.
No worries. So that's a way to reach out if people have any questions, or again, if they'd like to lend some support. I believe you're looking for scrutineers, some people to hand out some how to vote cards and things like that.
Yeah, so pre-poll and polling day, we're always looking for people that are willing to help. I mean, if you realise that there's an issue with crime and an issue with the rates in this city, and you want a fair income change of someone that's not of a major political party, and I'm all for any assistance that someone can give me.
Do you have any thoughts in mind for, perhaps some sort of community projects that might help guide some of our youth away from a life of crime?
Well, in Division 3, we had the old Castle Hill PCYC community area there that was left vacant for a little while. I understand Chris Hansen's got a swim school there, and Community Grow is in there now. But unfortunately, Community Grow is led by an ex Jenny Hill councillor. So I'm not sure how far that'll go. But, these situations where community buildings are left run down is just feeding into the crime problem. I mean, this pool needs a lot of maintenance. It's 25 metres. It possibly should be 50 metres with up-to-date dressing rooms and stuff like that. I mean, there used to be boxing at Castle Hill, to discipline the young fellas. There used to be gymnastics and other ball sports there. I understand there's Aussie rules there going in there. The council doesn't seem to be interested in the youth or the very old in this community anymore. And I think two are fundamental. One is going to be, the adults of tomorrow, and one have all the knowledge that just seem to be shunned and say, you're too old, what would you know? They've got the life experience. We should draw on that and resolve these issues faster, not put them in a shoebox and put them under the bed.
Well, they're very quick to sort of virtue signal the elders past and present sort of narrative. It seems a bit disturbing that they're not really reaching out to the ones that are currently present.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, I'm all for cultural heritage and all that sort of stuff, but the fact that we're ramming it down the kids' throats and stuff like that, I mean, my kids are learning about Aboriginal poetry, and, when Captain James Cook was here, there was fields and fields of planted crops and all this sort of stuff. That's a bit hard to believe, but, if it wasn't for the soldiers in the Second World War, we'd be probably still eating rice. I mean, that's just a fact of life. Those returned soldiers, I understand, were first Australians too, and I hang my hat up to them. But at the end of the day, it's got to be a balance there. It can't be just one people or the other. Positive racism is just as bad as apartheid, as far as I'm concerned.
Definitely. Will you be reaching out to the Indigenous community to get some assistance in some way, shape, or form before, after, during?
I've got a friend that's very high up in the cultural heritage area, and I'll be talking to her and looking for her to assistance. I know quite a few of the elders on Palm Island that are, should have a lot of respect that the younger generation don't have anymore, because kids have rights and parents don't have rights anymore. This sort of caper, and I think there should be a balance back. Parents need to take control of the kids. And it's a great job, parenting. It's a tough job, I understand that, but parents need to have the rights back.
I think, on that notion of, some more community projects, I mean, one thing that comes to mind is martial arts. I think it's a great opportunity for people to sort of gain some discipline and whatnot. Some people might find it disturbing to treat martial arts to some, some of the youth here that are, on the more troubled side of the realm. But, I've found it to be pretty good for, people getting their heads clear and whatnot. Even, there's some, the Inner Light Meditation Center is within your realm there on Flinders Street. They got some really good methods for meditations and ways to clear people's minds. It might be a good opportunity to sort of, maybe work with them to sort of come up with some, peaceful manners of getting the crime rate down, and some community engagement there. Maybe some group meditation centers, a bit of breath work, things like that. But I see the council come out and say the narrative to how much they respect the Indigenous population, but they don't seem to be utilising that Indigenous population. Perhaps, when you're speaking to some of them Indigenous, perhaps you can get some, council work projects going where they can sit down and explain their culture a little bit more, or work with the youth hands-on.
Yeah, I think it's just lip service. There's no genuine respect there. At the end of the day, I understand that sport is a great outlet for youth. It doesn't matter, what youth. Some are naturally gifted over others, and I appreciate that. But the whole idea of martial arts and boxing just be violent and that sort of thing, that's just wrong. I understand that martial arts is more than just violence. You've got other disciplines in martial arts like judo and stuff that's more defensive and more protective than other martial arts like Sanchi Kai and all that sort of thing. And with the martial arts training, you also get a level of respect and structure within the organisation, and also within boxing. I mean, you're probably one of the last places you'll ever hear please and thank you spoken on a regular basis is at a boxing gym, because this is what's demanded from good trainers. If you want to box, you've got to have a certain level of discipline. You're not allowed to fight on the street like martial arts, and if you do, there's consequences. But if the day comes where your parents are attacked, or you're a friend, or you're attacked yourself, or your family and friends, you can defend yourself, which should be your right. You shouldn't be, penalised because you've got this ability to defend yourself. That to me is just fundamentally wrong. The criminal shouldn't have the rights. The victim should have the rights.
Mm-hmm. So I just want to say to Marla, look, I know you've missed the first part. It's okay. You can catch the rerun. But this is also your opportunity to ask any questions, since this is in your division. Definitely, speak now or forever hold your peace. We're going to be wrapping this up pretty soon. Mark suggested maybe there could be something done with Army cadets as well. We're a garrisoned town, so again, why aren't we utilizing that military construct to perhaps have some sort of engagement programs? And to further Mark saying Army cadets in schools should be mandatory, as it will be Pete pressure that. I think it might be
might be peer pressure, but at the end of the day, you need that structure and you need that guidance that if things. Yeah, thanks, Mark. That if things get tough, you can stick it out if you don't have friends beside you. If they're coaxing someone to take drugs or do something stupid, you go, no, mate. This could end up quite badly or someone could die. So, no, thank you.
Oh, definitely. We had an incident at my son's school recently, where, some kids, not solely from that school as well, were coming around with drugs and, knives, and everything had to be, the whole place was put into a lockdown. It's definitely a bit disturbing to see what's happening, with our youth here in this town, and you can't help but wonder, is it, idle hands making the devil's work, and why isn't the council not providing adequate services in this regard?
Well, I firmly believe, if you give other kids the same parameters, they turn out the same. It's not related to race or anything like that. It's just the environment. That environment is fostering that sort of behaviour. So they need education and parental love, and that's not what they're getting.
Most certainly. Well, it doesn't seem like we've got any big questions coming out at the moment. So I think we could pretty much wrap it up here. Any final words, mate?
Yeah, so I would just say to the viewers, if you're really looking for change, I would go to the an independent. You've got the Change Party, which is the Labor Party, which is Team Jenny Hill anyway by default. So if you're fair income about change and fixing the place up, vote for an independent, a real independent.
Most certainly. Actually, there's one thing you mentioned to me before. I think we should show people. This has been featured on Troy Thompson's page here. Liam Mooney having a bit of a
Team Jenny Hill.
Team Jenny Hill. Yeah. So this is the kind of people that Team Jenny Hill seems to wish to associate. Let's have a look.
Yeah, mate. Around. Can I give you one of these ones? Just a little fly for myself and Liam. Okay. Why is that? That's me. What did I do to you, sir? You know me. About the duck thing? Yeah, everything, mate. You've never responded to nothing, so get off my cross. I'm a rude person, mate. Yeah, you are. Good. Because you can't do your job. You can't do your job, mate. I'd like to talk to you about that. No, I don't want to talk to you. You're disappointed because... No, anything. Stop talking. You're disappointed because the council... A fuckwit. You said exactly what you said. Just told me a fuckwit on my own property. You just said to me, mate. You piece of shit. Fuck off.
It's a shame about the blower there, but it seems that Liam Mooney called one of his voters a fuckwit. That's a wonderful way to try and get votes, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, they've got an ego and they've got an attitude. Why would you vote for them? This is just appalling. And again, this is the accountability and transparency that Jenny's talking about. Well, no, thanks.
Yeah. So do you think you'll be employing similar tactics, abusing the voters and, calling them fuckwits and, everything else under the sun when they don't do as you say? Do you think that'll help?
No, I don't believe that's transparency and accountability. I'm accountable to the ratepayer. I'm not going to tell them, what their problems are. I'm human myself. I've made mistakes, and at the end of the day, we all got to work together and get the best solution. Abusing someone isn't a good outcome. It doesn't make them feel good. It doesn't make anyone feel good. And a council is supposed to have a decent level of self-respect. He obviously doesn't have any self-respect for that ratepayer, and that's not the standard that councillors should be held to account to.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I will just say, Marla, that the incidents were reported to the parents, just not in any real great detail. In fact, we heard multiple different stories from different sources, which is again, a different thing. It was funny enough. It was, the private schools were the ones that were more forthcoming with the information. The public schools were more forthcoming. The private schools were the ones who were trying to say nothing. So considering it was a private and a public school involved, the public school was more forthcoming. And as a consequence, they were the ones who got the media beat up for coming out and telling the truth. It was a bit rough.
I don't think any schools exempt from this sort of behaviour with regard to the stolen cars or drugs or anything like that. So, it's a town-wide situation. And it needs to be looked at. It can't be pushed under the carpet anymore.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And, that word transparency, well, let's hope we can start to see some, because I, for one, would like to know where all this money is going and how it's being spent. And, I will definitely be casting my vote towards independence. Not that I have much of a choice as far as our local division goes, as my fate is sealed thanks to nobody else stepping up. But there's always the mayor vote. So I'm definitely hoping we can get Jenny Hill out and we can have a good investigation looking into what she has been doing this whole time and where all that money has been.
Well, on the subject of accountability, I mean, how is Jenny going to keep Liam accountable for that sort of behaviour? Is she going to disendorse him or wrap him over the knuckles or, put him in the naughty corner? What's she going to do? I mean, that's unacceptable behaviour by a normal person, let alone someone that's a councillor.
But while we're on the subject of Liam Mooney and his behaviour, Townsville Council Liam Mooney charged with drink driving after failing random breath test. And here's an article about, how he was sentenced after pleading guilty. Is it 0.068? Depending on your point of view, it's a little bit over, I guess. But as the campaign goes, you drink and drive, you're a bloody idiot. He's profusely embarrassed by, I'm sure he is, only because he got caught.
Well, I mean, he's done for drink driving, and that now he's abusing ratepayers. I mean, is he of the right mindset to be a councillor? That's the question you've got to ask yourself.
I mean, he got a $600 fine and his license revoked for 1 month. No interlocker device or anything like that. Doesn't that happen to everybody else?
No,
or do you have to
I think it's a judge's discretion, and based on the reading and all that sort of stuff, and how many times he's been presented before the magistrate is how the whole system works. So, maybe it was an oversight by Liam, but you'd think, if you were going to throw caution to the wind, you'd get a driver or not drink.
The courts are saying here there's only one speeding offence in the last 5 years. So isn't that interesting that, the speeding offence is indicative of, what kind of a person he is. And given that they're out on nearly every corner and they're putting up speed cameras left, right and center, it's again something that's so easy to accidentally, be too busy concerned with the road as opposed to, the speedometer, but that has gone into offence. I find that a little bit disturbing, to be honest.
Well, my experience,
But and
my
that just
my
makes it
experience
impossible to estimate
around town with regard to speeding, Mark, is I was in Bolam Street, and I believe the speed limit in Bolam Street was 60. So I was doing 58, and I got a fine for doing 58 in a 50 zone. So, it's all about revenue. It's not about keeping people safe most of the time.
I'm inclined to agree because I think, you drive around some roads and there's most people are sort of doing 10Ks over safely every day, no accidents happening. So you've got to wonder, are the speed limits too low in some places? I certainly think they are, particularly in some of these places where you've got a 3-lane highway and a big medium strip in the middle there and it's 60 Ks. Yep. Why is it so slow?
Well, Bolam Street is an industrial area of Garbutt. I mean, why is that 50? That's ridiculous.
Well, actually, that's, that area of Mount St. John there, that run along Ingham Road, the speed limit's like a roller coaster ride. It's up and it's down, it's up and it's down. It's like, come on, guys, make up your mind, And I noticed that they had one of their mobile setups there right at the 60 zone. As soon as you come out of the 80, bang into the 60, there they were with a flash for cash.
Yeah, it's a revenue getter. I mean, the whole rego system is ridiculous, and the state labor is just as useless as local labor with regard to monetary policy. That's why the whole thing is just a big mess.
Most assuredly. Yeah, well, there you go. That's a good point. Now that for that 1 month, he was probably claiming ratepayers' money to get himself around when Liam Mooney was out for a month. On left, it's 50. That's it. There, and that's another interesting thing about the way the speeding fines are done here in Queensland. In Victoria, there's a 3 kilometre variance, allowing for the actual variance of the speed detection device, which is clearly labelled within the handler's manual. They're within a 2 to 3 kilometre limit of variation. So they've admitted that their devices are not accurate, yet here in Queensland, there's no such leeway whatsoever. If you're 1 kilometre over, bang, we got you, criminal way of doing things. No compassion at all,
But if you're a 13-year-old in a stolen car doing 6 times the speed limit, that's okay.
And you kill your mates and whatnot, and God knows who else, you're out the next day.
Yeah,
so it's hard to have any respect for a legal system that treats, real criminals with, like, who cares? And, the hard-working Aussie on his way to work who just happened to be a couple of kilometres over because he's watching the road instead of his Speedo. Heaven forbid he watch where he's going. He loses the entire day's wage, if not more, depending on what they earn. But Mark, he wanted to offer you his assistance as well, if you'd like to take him up. Mark's got an audio studio here in town as well. So if you want, I can pass on some details after the show.
That's fine. Yeah.
So if he was a council worker, he would have already got terminated and lost his job. Well, there you go.
Yeah, well, he's a special council worker, isn't he?
He's a special council worker. He gets $170,000 a year and only has to turn up for 22 hours in the week.
That's special.
Yeah, definitely special. And he can swear at the general public as well whilst approaching them on their property after getting told that he's useless. Get off, do your job.
Probably should have breathalyzed him after the incident and see if he was over.
You should at least get a fine for being a public nuisance, harassment in some way.
A public disgrace,
yeah, definitely. Well, hopefully, what area is he in again?
Division 9. So that's the other side of Castle Hill to Division 3.
Yep. So, well, I believe we've got an independent in there that I hope to have a yarn with before the time is out, and maybe our independent can do a better job.
Well, I don't think they could do a worse job.
Wow. He set such an amazing standard so far. So anyway,
it's hard to beat.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on, my friend. It's been an interesting discussion we've had here, and hopefully, a few people can watch this around town and get a bit more of an idea of who you are. And
Yes,
definitely let us know if our current councillor is interested in a live debate on the internet. That would be very interesting.
I certainly will. I'll ask her. I'll message her tomorrow and see if it's a goer or not.
No worries. Let us know by all means. If not, stay tuned, people. We will be back with a little bit more to share as we dive deep into the Amaru story and find out a little bit more about what's going on. And until
happy
next
to help
time,
with the story.
No worries. That'd be awesome. Thank you very much for coming on. Alan Sheret, people, Division 3. Keep an eye on Facebook if you wish to drop him a line. We've also got Townsville Division 3 at gmail.com email that you can get in contact with him. Definitely looking for some assistance and whatnot. So until next time, my good friends in the freedom world, hopefully we can do a little bit more to keep you free. And of course, you're going to have to start putting your money where your mouth is. We need some people to start voting, helping out where you can. And by all means, get off your chair and step up to the plate. Let's get some people doing some stuff. The world ain't going to change what's sitting around wishing for it. You've got to make it change. And it starts right there with you. So thank you very much, my friend. I will get our rolling credit sequence going. Catch you later, people.
No worries. Thank you, Mark.